Hey everyone, Brandon here with the Worktapes podcast. I wanted to take a second and tell you about artistand.org. If there's one thing I love about writing in Nashville, it's the community it creates. But let's face it, we all need each other, and artists are not just artists anymore. We're songwriters, we're content creators, marketing managers, booking agents, social media experts, and we're doing it all at the same time. A lot of us are doing it by ourselves. It can be discouraging and it can burn you out really fast. Award-winning veteran songwriters Krista Wells and Nicole Witt are building a community through Artist&, that will champion your craft. Artist& is helping artists of all backgrounds not only expand their mindset and open their hearts, but to actively live into their creative dreams. And they're doing this through a variety of online and in-person opportunities to connect and create within a community. Visit artistand.org to learn how you can become a part of artist development, vision meetings, writing prompts, annual songwriters retreats, coaching, and a whole lot more. So whether you're a professional artist and you're feeling stuck, or you're an up-and-coming artist and not sure where to start, or you're just feeling overwhelmed by it all, visit artistand.org and learn how you can become part of a movement of people coming alive through creativity and authentic connection. Artistand.org. Let them know Brandon from Worktapes sent you. Welcome to Worktapes. This is a podcast where we tear apart songs. Why was the song written? What's it about? What's the context and emotion behind it? Where were you at the time? What were you going through? How did certain lines come to you? What's the inspiration? How long did it take to write? I'm Brandon Carswell, and I'm fascinated with songwriting and how songs are built from the ground up. It's easy to hear a full production song on the radio and dismiss its origin story. I want to hear the rough draft of the song, or the work tape. I want to explore the very beginning of how songs that move us and make us move are born. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Worktapes. My name is Brandon. Today we are joined by a fantastic songwriter, over 40 singles, Grammy for Best Country Song, I Hope You Dance, co-wrote on Blue on Black, which spent 6 weeks at number one and was regarded as one of the best rock songs of 1998 and even reached number one again in 2019.
Yep.
Your catalog is huge. Welcome, Tia Sillers.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
We're camping out in Soundstage on Music Row again, thanks to Nick Autry and the people at Black River Entertainment.
Legendary Soundstage.
Yes. Actually, in this studio, I was just told, I learned something new every time I do a podcast here, but this was where Kings of Leon did their first record, which I didn't know.
That makes perfect sense because
Right?
Angelo was a writer here in this building, so he was
Right.
using that place all the time.
There's so many huge records that have been recorded here, so it's cool to do a podcast about songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
If these walls could talk to us, we could
Well, and
just do that.
also what you just said, the obvious thing that I'm always saying constantly about Nashville is so much more than one genre of music that begins with a C. So, it started off being, bluegrass and gospel, and then it became country. And now when I first came here, or the thing that I thought I wanted to do was entirely, rock, roots, pop, what's now Americana, all those things like that. And that was very much front and foremost here. And then it kind of went away for a little bit, but it's been strong and steady for the last 20 years. So we're every genre.
Yeah. And speaking of kind of multi-genre writing, you're a pro at that. Just as you mentioned, So the big songs I mentioned at the front here that you've written, we're not really going to talk much about. We can. We're going to talk about some songs or a song that you wrote with a band called Flight Attendant, which is much more of like a modern pop. I mean, you can describe it. And we get to listen to the work tape of that song, which is really cool. So for the listeners, stick around because we'll get to that and we'll play the work tape. Before we dive in to that part, what got you into songwriting, period? Where did you start with it?
Well, when I was a kid, we moved here when I was 14, and when we moved to Nashville, it was a tiny, teeny little town, and my family was definitely having culture shock. We'd always lived in really big cities up and down the East Coast and in Europe, and to move to Nashville, we moved to Green Hills, and we lived in this place called Green Hills. Oh my God, Terrace. It was a condominium complex, and I had a bicycle, and I was only allowed to bike on that side of the road, on the left side of Hillsborough Road, not the right side of Hillsborough Road. And as luck would have it, about 2 blocks down is the world famous Bluebird Cafe.
Yep.
Of course, I didn't know that. I'm just a little 14-year-old kid biking along, and it's the summertime. The days are super long. And so I'm out biking around and enjoying my summer. And I noticed there's people that line up in front of this place like every night. And so finally I pull over on what I imagined to be like my hot pink Huffy or something like that and go like, hey, what's this place? It's a music venue, little girl. And there's shows every night, the early show and the late show. So then my dad, we moved here because my family was opening a restaurant. And so I grew up like around restaurants and restaurant kitchens and everything like that. And so about a week or two later, I'm biking around and I'm in the back parking lot of what would be the strip mall of the Bluebird. And there's a guy outside that works in the kitchen who's smoking a cigarette. And I said, hey, is this the kitchen for the Bluebird? And he's like, yeah. So I just park my bike and I just walk right through it. And then I walk in through the back way and I see the sound person. And for some reason, the sound person went, and he just points and he has me sit on that little ledge in the back. Yeah. And then I just started doing it every night.
Oh, wow.
So there you go.
So but okay, that's an awesome story.
And I thought every town had a Bluebird. I thought it was a thing. I thought like, oh, Des Moines, Iowa has songwriters. Atlanta, Georgia has the Bluebird Cafe. There's songwriters there.
Well, now maybe, yeah.
But I mean, I thought it was just like the same thing as an accounting firm.
Sure.
It's a thing.
So, well, did you have any experience musically or songwriting before that happened?
No.
So you got there and kind of were drawn in. So maybe explain or describe that first songwriters round you saw there.
Well, I don't remember the first one.
Okay.
But I remember very soon, very, very soon after that, they said, if you want to see a great songwriter round, you need to come see this guy named Don Schlitz. So I was like, okay. So I found out when he was playing, and he was playing like the next Monday night. So then it was the late show, because the bigger you are, the early show's like from 6 to 8, and then the next one starts at like 9. So I had to go get permission from my parents to go to this late show. Yeah. And I go and I meet Don Schlitz, and opening for him is Alan Shamblin, who's now one of the most legendary songwriters on the planet. But I'm this little kid or this young teenager, barely a teenager. And it did not occur to me that I wanted to play the guitar. It did not occur to me that I wanted to sing the songs or write the songs. I wanted to sit there and tell the jokes. It was the banter of the banter. Yeah. And they were like pirates. They were all like, and it didn't occur to me either. Like, I don't think it occurred to me for at least, I remember I begged my mom to come with me. Like, I mean, this just became a thing. Like, I was there. Like, who would watch TV when you live 2 blocks from the Bluebird? Right. Yeah. And they were just let me come in there all the time. And so I remember begging my mom to come see him play. And my mom said, she goes, I just want to state the obvious. And I go, what? And she goes, you do realize they were all men. And I was like, oh yeah. Okay, I got to do something about that, And then I started going, and I realized that it was almost all men, as it still is. when I just played at the listening room a couple weeks ago with Emily Shackleton and Victoria Banks, and they were all excited because we were one of the first all-female shows.
Wow.
In 2024.
Right.
On a Saturday night.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, but shouldn't even be an issue. Like, I don't actually want to be a woman writer. I just want to be a writer.
Sure.
And I think going to the Bluebird for all those years, it was so great because it never occurred to me I was a woman.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I always say, like, I've never thought of myself as a she. I've just thought of myself as a person trying to do a job within the confines of my body.
Song is a song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except it's not. I mean, it is, a song is a song, but I know that I have not been allowed in all sorts of rooms and I've gotten so many fewer chances than men if I had stayed within the confines of Music Row. Because Music Row is...
It's okay.
Very exclusive.
Yeah.
Whereas, and that's half the reason why when I was at the beginning of my career, I'm 21, I meet a guy named Kenny Wayne Shepherd who's 16, 17 years old. Kenny didn't have any problem.
Right.
And so before I know it, I'm writing with rock bands. They never had a problem. I swear to God. Sister Hazel, I'm trying to think of all the great bands I've worked with. Never comes up. It's only male artists and male songwriters, and not exclusively, just...
Yeah.
But that's who I want to write with anyway. I want to write with men because I like men.
Yeah.
I like writing that kind of song.
So how did you get your way in? What was the, for lack of a better term, what was the trick? Or was there one?
I don't know.
Or did you just branch out of the Music Row country thing?
My first publishing deal was with a guy named Tom Collins, and I was super lucky. I was going to school in North Carolina in Chapel Hill,
mm-hmm.
but I was also trying to finish college early, so I was going to Vanderbilt summer school, and I met this guy while at Vanderbilt, and I convinced him. He was a really great performer, but I convinced him that he needed help on his songs, and he was... I still don't even understand the gumption of that. Like, now I can't even understand, where did I possibly think that was a good idea?
That's a trick. I love it.
But I at the time, I just did it, you know? And
it's a dangerous trick. He could have gotten mad at you.
You
need help on your songs.
Yeah, but he didn't.
Yeah.
But he didn't for some reason. And I don't even know how I phrased it. Like, I must have phrased it better than that, what I just said. I mean, but it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, he got a publishing deal, then he got a record deal. And he was kind of, we had our first top 5 together with him. I'm like 21 years old. And then very soon after that, I remember sitting down with Tom Collins, my publisher, and I was always saying, don't refer to me as a woman. Don't refer to me as a girl. On your roster, don't say you've got a girl writer. Don't do it. Please don't do it. And I was constantly fighting for that. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And so that's when he was like going, can you write blues? There's this blues cat named Kenny Wayne Shepherd. And I went home and studied up. I boned up so hard. I'm like, I got my guitar out. I'm born under a bad sign. I'm like, I can do this. I can do this.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So, and then it was an amazing amount of, and I call it luck on purpose, luck, timing, fortune, but that early success with those out of the box males set the stage for other like-minded males to embrace me.
Mm.
And to wit, in my whole career, I think I've only written, like I have Reba McEntire's new single, and I wrote it with another woman. I think that's the first time in my entire life.
Oh yeah, that something got cut like that, where it's just you two.
Yeah, it's called I Can't, and she released it this year, whatever. So
awesome.
But I mean, to point though, that's how important I still feel. I mean, I've worked too hard to try to just be a writer that I actually don't even want to. Oh, God, it just sucks to have to say this, or not to even think that I'm saying this out loud. I think I probably avoid writing with women.
Okay.
I'm trying not to, but I actually think I have in my career, because I knew enough that once I started doing that, I might be.
You don't want to get pigeonholed or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which really bites.
Yeah. But it has nothing to do with how good someone is or not, right?
No.
Right. Well, it feels like obviously you kind of niched your way in. Going back to those Bluebird times, I'm really interested in when it clicked for you. So you're in there watching those shows, watching the banter, falling in love with songs, I assume. And then when did it click where you're like, I want to write though?
Well,
I want to be that.
I also don't even think I understood that those songs were hits. I don't even think I got that. Because first of all, I didn't listen. I wasn't listening to those genres of music. I'm listening to whatever my parents were listening. I'm listening to the Police. Right. You know what I mean? I don't even know what I'm listening to. Yeah. I don't even know what I'm listening to, but whatever it is that I'm listening to, it wasn't that music. I don't think I understood that they were playing legendary number one songs.
What years were these? This might give us
1988, 89, 90, 91, all that right there.
Yeah.
And I remember Alan Shamblin had written "I Can't Make You Love Me If You Don't." Not at that point, but like 4 or 5 years later, and I had just discovered Bonnie Raitt at that point, and that's when I was like, oh. Yeah. That's how big a song can be. Yeah. In current time, in real time. I actually know this person who wrote this song. I've been watching him since I was 14. This is the first thing that went in my hard drive.
Yeah.
But my mother, who was just brilliant, and this was in an era, before Google, right?
Yeah.
So I would say I liked a song. We'd be listening to something on the radio, and my mom would go and find out who wrote it. And she would say, that's a Burt Bacharach, Hal David song. I'd be like, oh, okay, Burt Bacharach. That's a Bernie Taupin, Elton John song. Okay, yeah. Oh, Sting wrote that. Oh, okay. And putting that too. It was a slow.
So it sounds like she recognized it in you though.
Well, my mom and my dad were both really, really, really creative people. And they both were wildly talented, and they did more pragmatic things with their life. And I think that they probably both secretly were hoping that I would do something really creative.
Right.
But also not wanting to
pressure.
Yeah. Because it's also nebulous, right? To do anything creative, it's still such a nebulous thing. I mean, you can go to college, you can get a degree in music business or songwriting or fine art or whatever, and that does exactly nothing. I mean, it gives you the feeling and the skill set, but it doesn't actually do the next thing, which is this crazy lightning striking mojo, fortune, and then on top of all that, you have to then keep your wits about you, right?
Right.
I mean, you start having hits or being successful, then you have to keep your wits about you. You can't become impressed with it, because then you lose the very thing. No, it's a lot.
That makes sense. It makes a ton of sense when you get that lightning bolt situation, though. Like, was there a time younger in your writing career where you thought, I do have something good? Like, I have a talent at this. I mean, it's obvious, but before you landed something bigger.
No, I think three very important things. So I was in a non-graded school when I was a little tiny kid, all like a Montessori school. And so I really had no concept in Montessori school. Like, you'd be in one class and you'd be with a bunch of 12-year-olds, never mind that you're 8. And then another class, you'd be in a class with a bunch of 6-year-olds, because you're not as good at it. So like I was in math, I was with younger kids, right? I was in English, I was with older kids. So I was already sort of groomed. I had a super hard time adjusting to high school. Then when it was suddenly graded, I had nothing in common, or I felt that I had nothing in common with my high school peers. In fact, I jokingly say I have no memory of it, although I never drank a drop of liquor or did any drugs. I just sort of blacked it out. It was a really unpleasant time that you just have to muscle through.
Right.
And what I did during that time, because I didn't like that, is I just went incredibly inward. Now I see that. And so I developed this, I must have already had it as a little kid, but this inward imagination mind, which I very much was able to harness. And it served me very well as a songwriter over these years. And then also when my beloved husband got really sick and had to battle cancer, and then he died, and I lost him. I mean, he was my favorite collaborator and everything, but my inner world that I already had learned how to use, I just went and lived there for a while.
Yeah.
And so in a weird way, high school, losing my husband to cancer, very similar dark times.
Sure. Yeah.
And I just went inward. And I think in that inward time, I think I was thinking of creative things. I just don't think I was thinking of them as a song.
Right. Or as an accomplishment.
Okay.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I was also in plays. I sang in choir. I know I wrote things because I found them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's the other thing that's really weird. I've been a person who's kept like journals and notes my whole life. And I went back during the pandemic and like read a bunch of my things. And 14-year-old Tia and grown-up Tia ain't no difference.
Yeah.
I mean, holy moly. 7-year-old Tia, 40-year-old Tia, exactly the same. And I was in one way pleasantly surprised, you know?
Yeah. So going inward, I like what you said about that, because so much art comes from that space, from loss, from, the pressures of high school or just life in general, whether you're working 9 to 5, whatever you're doing. How much of that seeps into your writing?
Oh, at this point, I think I'm just like a walking, talking, super thin-skinned wound.
Yeah.
And my superpower is, what kind of emotion do you want? Okay, give me a minute.
Like
yeah,
actor.
I got that.
Yeah.
And then nip of the vein, a little bit of blood.
Yeah.
Can we get a Band-Aid quickly? And then, yeah, I mean, and I don't write. I stopped writing. I stopped writing a couple different times in my life, but I really stopped writing after Moss died. And I kind of made this deal with myself, or the deal with the universe, as if the universe was listening. I'll tell you, universe.
Yeah.
But I decided to, like, who would Tia be if she had never met him?
Okay.
And so I really went back to Tia when no one would really write with Tia. Or maybe like, let's say high school Tia, college Tia, and just locked myself in the room and really woodshedded on the guitar, really woodshedded on the piano, and then started writing by myself, which I never really got to do because I had so much early success. I was immediately collaborating. So then I kind of did that thing that most people do for the first 7-8 years of their career when they're trying to get people to write with them, is I wrote by myself.
Yeah.
And I think that so now I not only, but I almost only write from, I was going to say experience. It's not that the song is a personal experience, but I can use my experience to touch the song.
Sure. You've been through enough to, like you said earlier, tap into a vein
Yeah.
that you've had. Well, I remember what this felt like.
Yeah.
This line. So you're able to put words to that feeling.
Yeah.
Better than somebody who's, I mean, arguably better than someone who's just making up a story.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of my other problems, or like why I'm actually really not a very good songwriter. Or I'm not a very good professional songwriter, in that I really don't want to repeat myself.
Okay.
I really don't want to write the same song all the time. I don't want to, one of the things that I find so limiting about a lot of the songs written by the guys who all wear the same baseball caps and the same t-shirts, and they all stand up there and there's 500 words.
Yeah.
There's 500 words. That's it. It's like you can come up with some clever way. You could say chrome instead of bumper.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's got to have a truck. It's got to have a back road. It's got to have somebody with my genome in it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I find that really limiting, kind of like playing a Rubik's Cube. And at some point that's not what I set out to do.
Let me ask you this. For I Hope You Dance, did you feel that pressure to write something else in that vein after that blew up?
No. But that's the other thing too, is that I only felt that pressure at fleeting times, at different times. And then I almost always was lucky enough for the first beginning of my career to have a publisher say, stop doing that to you.
Okay.
No. You stay in your bubble. You stay in Tia world. Don't pay attention to that. But I definitely feel, because in my defense, I'm curious. I've been saying this a lot because I just signed a new publishing deal, and I've been saying this to my publishers. It's like between Moss getting sick and then dealing with cancer and then death and a pandemic, I'm really curious to see what I can do without being severely compromised.
Right.
And
do you trust yourself?
I do.
Okay.
I thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
I ask that because I've been through some things, and I feel a lot of days where I don't, where I'm like, well, I can't tap into this song or this right because I'm still stuck over here. And it's just like a health thing.
Well, but what you're saying is interesting, because you're still trusting yourself to know that you can't do it.
Right.
And
Or I'm lying to myself
or-
and saying I can't do something that I can do.
You can.
Yeah.
That's super fascinating, off the subject, but it's like, that's one of the things that I've realized now, because I've spent a number of years alone, and I spent a number of years hoping I would find someone else to love me, and then kind of making peace with that, and just sort of settling into myself, and realizing it's all my friends and all the connections, and I have this amazing life of all these people, and I trust all of my friends. I really do. And I really love the different relationships I have with them, more than I think I've ever had in my life. And it's maybe because I've spent so much time also muddling through my own me, the skin and bones I can't slip, right?
Sure.
So then I've collected all of these people that, to the point, to a point now, like if a man actually, flirts with me and tries to enter my life, if he's not as good as my friends, he doesn't even get a chance at this point. Like, and actually I'm trusting myself on that, of like, oh no, actually, if I chase this a little bit further, this is going to upset the apple cart of my very great dynamic life right now.
Yeah.
So I'm trusting that.
Yeah.
You just helped me realize. I didn't realize that till you just.
You didn't know
asked me
you're
this.
coming on a therapy podcast. So, yeah.
Yeah.
What about this? This is a curveball question, I think. Did you ever have any kind of issue? So I'm always interested in this as far as number ones go, or big songs go. Does the writer ever have an issue not being the one in the spotlight per se? Like if you wrote the song, for Kenny Wayne Shepherd, but you didn't get to be, you know what I mean?
I think I'm the perfect songwriter.
Okay. Explain.
I'm the most perfect songwriter there is. I'm the perfect example of what a songwriter should be or could be.
Yeah.
Because what I really want to do is slip my skin and write other people's songs. I want to write songs and have these songs go out in the world and have nobody guess in a million years that this person wrote them.
You like being behind the scenes.
And it's like beyond behind the scenes. It's like you're a puppeteer. It's like you write these songs that go on and have incredible lives.
Yeah.
Independent of you.
That's great. I think that songwriters are not behind the scenes. I feel like you probably agree. But I mean, they built the thing and then someone else, maybe they co-wrote on it. Some artists don't, but they're getting all of the spotlight, center stage.
It's my favorite. I mean, I love being the songwriter, but what I think is interesting is one of the reasons why maybe I've had the success I've had is because, well, I'm just going to use my wonderful late husband as an example. My late husband's name was Mark Selby, and he was so talented. He was so awesome, and he was such an artist. And he had the hardest time when we were writing a song, taking him out of it.
Okay.
And we would be working on a song for this other person. I'm like, we've got to sound less like yourself right here. Can you do that? Can you do this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or I know you don't like that guitar tone, but this person likes this guitar tone, and this song demands this guitar tone, or this song demands this phrasing. It's almost like when you walk into a Tudor house, you don't paint it neon green and put I don't know, Spanish Mediterranean furniture in it. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's a Tudor house.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of lean into the Tudor. Or a little country farmhouse probably doesn't have, Barcelona chairs in it. Maybe it does. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like the house kind of the song. I know it's better choice. The song is king. The song is in charge. The song is in charge. So let the song be in charge.
Unless you want it to be your song.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So
and even then, it's still in charge. It's just in charge of you.
Exactly.
And you get to do whatever you want.
And now it's like one of the things, as I've started writing more songs by myself, is I've actually made my own songs now. Like I have my own songs that are very much my own songs, and I'm in charge of them.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll be recorded by other people, maybe they won't. But I know what I'm doing. I'm putting a lot of me in this song.
Right.
Whereas then there's other songs, like the one we're going to listen to in a little while, I bent over backwards getting
to serve the song,
them in it, yeah. To where I'm like completely invisible.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Yeah,
because you're working with Flight Attendant. Mm-hmm. Maybe give us like a little bit of what kind of music they're doing.
So Flight Attendant is a band here out of Nashville. A whole bunch of them were Belmont students, but they didn't meet at Belmont, even though they knew each other. They basically met at this restaurant called Fifth and Taylor,
mm-hmm.
different waiters and bartenders,
Great
the
restaurant.
service industry, all that stuff. And they all formed there. Carolyn is the front man of the band. And she, I kind of say, because she's also my best friend, she's kind of like being best friends with Deborah Harry and Chrissy Hind at the same time.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, my friend, Carolyn Weingartner. And she's a very large personality. She's got an elastic voice. She plays a million different instruments. She's a classical pianist, wicked smart, comes from a super hyper intelligent family. She's also chaotic and like kind of unhinged. You don't quite know what she's going to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes I say on stage, if she just sort of spontaneously combusted, I'd be like, well, there she went, Whereas it's fascinating. The Nikki Christie is the string player, the viola player, and she's amazing. She's beautiful and very tightly wound and intense and perfectly orchestrated and controlled. And Peyton, the bass player, also just laying down the groove. He's this long, willowy, he looks like a human noodle, and he just sort of, it's just so cool. Derek, the drummer, super, super crazy tight, but these are all, they're doing their job. They're holding their corners. And then there's the guitar player who also sings, Vinny. Vinny, I swear to God, it looks like he's just been dropped off an alien landed on stage. Is like, what the hell? What am I doing here? He looks like completely surprised every time he plays. It's like, whoa, okay, here we go. Yeah. And it creates this raucous jubilance.
Yeah.
And it's tight and loose at the same time. And I first saw them play right before the pandemic at the Fifth and Taylor, the back corner. And I've never been like this ever, but I was like, first of all, how do I make her my friend? And how do I get to be in this band?
Yeah.
And, now it's 5 years later. I think it's 5 years.
Yeah.
So.
That's so fun. Have you written? Okay, so you described the band like you all write together. Is that how it goes?
It depends. And that's the other thing I really love. One of the things that happens in Nashville a lot, if you're a commercial songwriter, professional songwriter, whatever you want to call it, writing every day, is that you're not writing with the same people every day, but you each come in, you've got a job, here we go, we're going to write this song, right? And your skill set is thus that you can write a whole lot of different kinds of songs.
Right.
That's kind of your job. You're a songwriter first. Maybe you're a musician, an artist second, right? Unless you're writing with the artist. And then the artist is kind of first. But what's fascinating is when you're writing with a band, yes, they're musicians. Yes, they're singers, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're studio musicians or singers. They're actually maybe not good enough, quote unquote, to be a studio musician or a studio singer or, like that. They actually can just play in their style, and it's that style within the band.
Right.
So the band has all worked together and they've all learned their roles on how to play. So they're all great musicians and performers, but they might not be a studio musician or a professional contract published songwriter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I love about being in a band is you're kind of a marriage counselor, couples counselor, that you're also keeping the peace. They all say negative, passive, aggressive things to each other.
Yes.
Or he's late, or another smoke break, or whatever, like that kind of thing like that, which you would never say in a professional writing situation.
Right.
We are all much more well-behaved,
Uh-huh.
I love that. I love the, not the well-behaved part. I like the other part. I like the weird dynamics of a band.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like a family.
It's a lot like a family, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I came. That's how I grew up writing stuff, was always in a band.
Yeah.
And to get to Nashville and it'd be like what you're describing, like writing with pro songwriters in a room or in a studio, it's intimidating after writing with your buds or your family.
Yeah.
Like I was in a band with my brother, so literally family, and we could do that passive aggressive thing and nobody's, storming out. And if they do, they come back and we finish the job.
We always said this thing, Moss and I did, we called it our songwriter hat. Like the second we put our songwriter hat on, we were no longer husband and wife. Right. It was not allowed. There was nothing domestic allowed in the room. There was no, after this, we're going to go to the grocery store. Like that. No. It was not allowed. We were only songwriters. We could talk about music. We could talk about studio. We could talk about sports. We could talk about anything, but nothing about our relationship.
Okay.
Because it was like an unfair little, I just didn't like the way it played.
Yeah.
So that was one of my rules when I wrote with him.
Yeah, because if it's your career, you don't or you shouldn't afford yourself the luxury of, well, if we're going to get a fight about this and not finish this thing, that this is our job, right? Mm-hmm. There's all these little nuances that could play into writing together. I've talked to a few couples who are songwriters and performers together, and it's very interesting to me to see that dynamic happen and keep it pro.
Do you know, only because we're so close, have you met the Young Fables?
Yeah, they were on here.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
And I immediately thought of Laurel, and they do a great job.
Yeah.
At being just I love writing with them, and I love not feeling like the third wheel.
Mm-hmm.
We're just 3 writers. 2 of them happen to sleep together.
Yeah, they're great. We did their episode in this room actually, and it was easy. They're so great. I love them. Flight Attendant.
Yeah.
The song is called Be Mine. Let's listen to the work tape. Our listeners would have heard a little bit of it at the top of this episode as part of the intro, but we'll take a minute and listen to this. Cool. This is going to be, well, let's just listen.
Okay, I'm trying. I'm going to do it. You got it. Something like this.
Trembling has all the cards on the table to kill the holes, temptations, and the fable as we open up this goddamn book again. And the music grows with the smoke as the walls cave in. Here we go again. Be my Russian doll, my player to my deep Neptune. Be mine. Be my trampoline, my twisted mind, my grifter scheme. Be mine. Be my souvenir, my brutal proof. We're really here. Be mine, be mine, be mine. Is that all right? Like that. And then I think it needs to be riddle wrapped up tight inside. I think it needs to go riddle wrapped up tight inside. Yeah, stop. Yeah, an enigma. I don't know.
Don't talk, hadn't changed your
Okay. This demo is cool and interesting because you sent me two demos. So I mashed them together. Mm-hmm. The first one is you, right? Singing over this.
Well, I think the first one, if you did it the way I think you would do it, the first one is where we start singing the first verse, and it's actually Carolyn kind of singing it way in the background. Mm-hmm. And then when we get to the second verse, and we still don't have the chorus written. So that's when I had kind of come up with this chorus idea. So then that we just I just pulled out a phone and just started singing along to it.
Yeah.
And
okay.
So what I actually sang was the second verse, the back part of the second verse, and the second chorus, which is the chorus every time. And even that, I still didn't have we didn't have the melody fleshed out or anything.
Right. I love these. I love the work tape. I think it's super interesting. So for our listeners' sake, listen to the work tape, but go back and listen to whatever's on Spotify, the finished product, because it's super cool. I told you, I texted you and told you we were talking about a different song, mm-hmm. but I love the lyrics of this song, and the other one's fantastic too. I listened to the whole record today.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things that's so much fun is any day that I can go in and write a catchy, connective, modern pop smart song that has 6 words I've never used in a song. Yeah. I'm like, boom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what drew me into this song more. I love the production and everything, her voice, but the lyrics drew me in because they're kind of playful, but they're really smart. Mm-hmm. Like they're not so left field where it sounds too artistic or something, like too artsy. I'm trying to be weird and make a point. And I'm just going to read off my favorite lyrics, which I believe is the chorus. Be my Russian doll, my player 2. Be my deep Neptune, be mine. Be my trampoline, my twisted mind. My grifter scheme, be mine, my souvenir. My photo proof.
Brutal proof.
Oh, see,
so it's be my Russian doll, my player 2, my deep Neptune, be my trampoline, my twisted mind, my grifter scheme, be mine, be my souvenir, my brutal proof that we're really here, be mine. Is that all right? Be mine, be mine, be mine.
It's very cool. Like it just provokes all of these different.
Well, and I mean, first of all, the whole thing started because Vinny, I'm going to tell your story. There's a woman that he's known forever since I think they went to like elementary school together, and every time they are back in the same orbit together, it's always this weird feeling of sliding doors of like, what would it be? I'm so confused. Mm-hmm. And he goes, and sometimes I feel like we keep taking off our hats or layers. We take off layers and we go back to being 16 or going back to be 10 or going back to 22. And I immediately started thinking of a Russian doll, the doll inside the doll, inside the doll, inside the doll. And so, be my Russian doll, my player 2. I mean, come on, how much fun is that to say, right? And it's TWO, not player like 2, comma, but player 2, like player 1 and player 2, right? And then I love brutal proof.
Yeah, sorry, I said photo because that's what it says on Apple Music. Or
Apple is wrong. We got to fix that. Yeah. But brutal proof, grifter scheme.
That's a great one.
Come on, what a great word. And these are words I love. I collect I consider them muscular words, like really strong, but they're just a variety of words. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could say crazy scheme, right? But grifter's a little more unsavory, right?
Right.
Deep Neptune. First of all, I had just literally gone out on a date with a guy that loved to swim, and he kind of had longer hair, and he kind of, I don't know, had me thinking about Neptune. I don't know. So I mean, it was like all these things are all coming together.
Do you just collect all of these different words in your mind? Do you keep them somewhere? Do you write them down?
I collect them in my mind, and then also I write them down, and then I'm also trying to think of things that are accessible. Like the Greek and the Roman gods, those stories have been around forever. So, I mean, if I say Perspicacious, that's too esoteric, yeah?
Right.
But I think I could say Aphrodite, and people might know what it, or I could say Romeo and Juliet, right?
Yeah.
But maybe, maybe I can't say something more esoteric, but, Neptune, I think everybody, and especially with the cartoons, God, what are the Disney...
Oh, like the Hercules
the ocean.
thing. Oh, Aquaman.
No, even funnier than like Ariel.
Little
Mermaid.
Yeah.
Well, like Neptune's in it.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's not that esoteric anymore, you know? Or I mean, it's not like I'm making some incredibly weird reference. However, when you do go Bleed My Russian Dial, My Deep Neptune, my Grifter Scheme, My Brutal Proof, that's pretty cool.
It is cool.
So.
It's very cool. It's fun. It's kind of quirky. Like when you go into a write like this, are you, for this song in particular, was there an idea beforehand, or did you guys till the earth, so to speak?
I'm collecting things.
Yeah.
And I'm just like I actually keep, I have 3 drawers in my house. I write down everything constantly and just stick them in drawers, these 3 drawers. And then about once a month, I used to have a bowl, but it's gotten bigger now, it's drawers. And I just go through the drawers and pull out things. And my brain will be thinking about certain things. I'll realize like, wow, I'm really quite obsessed with stars right now.
Okay.
I'm quite obsessed with supernovas, the word supernova, for example. Oh, okay, that's my thing right now, and like, so I was already obviously thinking about Deep Neptune and things like that. And then
the stars line is great.
Yeah.
That's a great line.
Yeah. And then also I had just been literally reading oh my God, Winston Churchill. And Winston Churchill, after World War II, he literally said it's a riddle wrapped inside a quagmire, inside of an enigma.
Yes.
Like how to solve this conflict.
Yeah.
And so when we made that in the song, riddle wrapped up tight inside an enigma, I don't want to try to understand it, just be mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that like wormed its way in.
I love
a little
it.
bit of Churchill,
That's it's so smart, and it's so like, it's also subtle. It just kind of,
because it's also, it counterbalances it immediately. Like if I say enigma, it's wrapped up tight inside of enigma, but I don't want to try to understand it. Just be mine.
Yeah.
Get over here. Get in my bed. I mean, that's basically what it's saying.
Right.
And then it's saying something saucy right next to it.
Yeah. It's a great song.
Thank you.
I love it. What are your musical inspirations right now? Who are you listening to? Other than, this band.
Well, I mean, I really play a lot by myself, and play a lot. All of my friends, like, they're almost all also musicians. We listen to each other's things. But I mean, when in doubt, like when I go home and put on music, I have these records I call perfect records. Like perfect,
right,
from start to finish. One would be Annie Lennox, Medusa. No, I'm sorry. Excuse me. One would be Annie Lennox, Bear, which is this really esoteric record. One would be sometimes David Gray, depending on my mood.
Oh, yeah.
I love Portuguese music. I love jazz. I love Thelonious Monk and Jay Brubeck and all that stuff. It just sort of jangles my head up and takes me in places I don't understand. I love Robert Glasper. I love, I'm completely spacing out on this fabulous Portuguese artist that I adore. Yeah. And then also too, my publisher, Robert Philhart, he's sending me songs every day, and they're not songs that are new songs. He's sending me like standard classic songs just out in the world.
Yeah.
Like he just sent me this amazing, there's a really cool woman named Belle France, and Belle did this amazing cover version of The Last One to Know, which is an old Shelby Lynne song from like maybe the 80s. And he just sent me that last week, and I probably listened to that 20 times.
Yeah.
Or Clay Bradley, BMI, years ago sent me Robert Palmer's Get Outside. And that sent me on like a crazy deep dive of Robert Palmer, who I just think is one of the greatest artists. His early stuff is just sick.
Those deep dives hit me also. Like I've been on there's so much music in the world. And I feel like me and my buddy were talking about it the other day, like I'll get just caved into American whatever music that I like. And he started sending me like Japanese jazz fusion stuff. And I must have sat on my couch for 4 hours just going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun.
Yeah, Japanese jazz is great.
From like the 70s though, like nothing new.
Yeah.
And the recordings sound phenomenal. And it's just like, if you want to find new music, you can find it. And it's fantastic.
I did one of the coolest things I've ever done this summer is I went to the Montreux Jazz Festival.
Oh, cool.
And I got to see like Paolo Nutini, who's one of my favorite rock pop artists. And then I got to see Dionne Warwick.
Wow.
God's sake. And then John Batiste.
Yes.
It was the variety of music was just insane. So
he's crazy to watch.
He was just crazy and just positive and happy and everything. I saw Trombone Shorty. But you know what's interesting is to go back to what I was saying earlier is in a way I do listen to music, but in another way I'm largely in my head. Yeah. So
do you ever wonder what it's like to hear music as someone who's not a musician or a writer? I think about that sometimes, and I can't imagine what it is like. I have no real reference for it.
You know, so I'm here with my friend Ryan's tagging along tonight, and Ryan and I were just talking about how fascinated we are by sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Or by, like, I'm better at singing than he is. He's a better musician than I am. And he was like, but it's like, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about, I mean, I suppose we could talk about sports or politics. I suppose we could, but we don't.
Right.
All my friends, we don't sit around and talk about that stuff.
No.
We talk about this.
Yeah.
Or we talk about, oh my God, like we went to go see Sturgill Simpson a month ago and we're like, you played 3.5 hours long, never took a break. It's like, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and I really try. I've got season tickets to the soccer game, the NSC soccer game, because I grew up watching soccer with my dad and my family. And I thought, this is good. I need to become a sports fan. I'm doing it. I
need to become a sports fan.
What's really funny is, so I've become great friends with my seatmates, but basically I don't think I'm going to keep doing it. As much as I love them, it's like, I just want to be around music.
Yeah.
I don't actually.
That's okay.
I'm not interested in sports. I don't want to watch people win and lose. It's not interesting to me.
I had a teacher in middle school. That's about the time I got into playing guitar and writing and stuff. And he was my PE teacher. And I hated that class because I didn't care about, any of the activities or whatever. I just wanted to play music. I couldn't wait to get out of school so I'd go home and play. And I wouldn't bring my clothes to change out in. I would forget. And I will never forget, he said, Brandon, there's way more to life than just music. And I was like, no, there's not.
I
couldn't.
I don't think so.
It stuck with me forever. And I know what he means. Like you can focus on, doing your job or what you need, your responsibilities, But
you know what? You just said something that goes back to the question of, do you ever think about people who don't think about music the way we do? It's like the world needs all different kinds of people. The world needs accountants.
Of course.
The world needs managers. The world needs people who are chefs.
Yes, thank God we're not all musicians.
I'm willing to bet you that a chef largely thinks about being a chef. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, food.
I'm pretty sure, that particularly anything that you're passionate about, I'm pretty sure that a professional sports player only thinks about their sport. They're not thinking about juggling. Yeah. Or firewalking, or I'm trying to think of, or flower arranging. Maybe they are. Yeah. But,
it's also weird to think about other people's passions. And I'm like, how can that be a passion? That doesn't make sense to me. Flower arranging. I get it. But like when you're so immersed in one thing.
But I mean, I also do think that that's your duty. Like I'm always saying, I'm so glad I can play the guitar, because I could be broke. I could be quite lonely. I could be old. I could live in a tiny apartment. I could live in a big mansion, whatever. But I could play this guitar. Yeah. I could do this, or play the piano or whatever. I could do this to fill up the sound of the night.
Could you do something other than, like, if this wasn't your job, what do you think you might do?
Well, I mean, I kind of do, because I also build houses.
Oh, you
do?
So
I do historical renovations, which is a whole nother. Yeah. I started doing that to keep myself fresh as a writer. And
that's smart.
I needed the other tactile concrete thing. But I have a friend of mine who's a doctor, and I think about it a lot, because I think about how much time he spent studying to be a doctor, and then how many hours in any one week he's seeing patients and prescribing things and doing the things that he's doing as an ear, nose, and throat doctor within the purview of that job, right? And I remember a long time ago, kind of like, you can't do music all the time, right? I remember somebody saying to me, be very careful what you decide to do, because you will become it. And so, if you become a prosecutor attorney, you're going to get very good at prosecuting, right?
Right.
Or being litigious, or figuring out arguments and ways around, or if you become a doctor, you're going to get very good at diagnosing and prescribing. And a doctor wants to fix things, right? If you become a songwriter, you don't actually really want to fix something, right? But you do want to craft a song.
Sometimes you might.
But yeah. But you know what I mean? They're all different things.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. I had something on deck. Hold on. I have to remember it. Oh. So you've been doing this for a long time. You've had success, figured it out, whatever that means. What would you say to you? Okay, so you've watched the landscape of music change. Like the industry has totally flipped upside down. Would you have any advice for up and comers, or anybody just songwriter who's just not making an income at it, or people chasing the things that don't exist anymore? Like, it's harder to get a pub deal than it used to be. It's harder to do, you name it. The music industry is harder than it was. Streaming, internet, all the stuff.
I read all the time. I love to read. I love to wake up in the morning and start reading. And this morning, I learned a new phrase, and it's flux gusto.
That sounds cool.
Everything is in flux, constantly in flux. It is never not in flux. And you can have gusto about it being in flux.
Okay.
Or you can lament that it's in flux. When Moss was sick and dying and dead, those were all things I had absolutely no control over whatsoever.
Right.
It was this horrible, very, very long, never-ending lesson in how much is not in our control. Ending in me losing the most important person in my life. So when I hear people lament about something in the music business not being the same, or any business, I want to flick them.
Right.
I want to go, oh, poor little baby. It's not exactly the way it was.
Yeah.
How about you lose your best friend? Now you can lament that.
Yes.
You can lament going bankrupt. You can lament your house burning down. The fact that business or industry is changing, it's always been that way. Take a class in economics. It's a rule of 40. The odds of any industry lasting more than 40 years since I think it's 1820, since 1820, any one industry staying unchanged for more than 40 years. So we're 200 years into change, like more rapid change. Before then, we didn't even have books. For God's sakes, we didn't have a car. I get it. The first 74,000 years, very little change. But now it's really changing. It's like, I think the only way to operate in this time is flux gusto.
Yeah.
Is onward, and you can't be lamenting too much of the past. How flexible and jubilant can you be? And then, to that point, to everyone out there, now is the time to be the most excellent version of yourself and to learn the most excellent skills, because AI is going to take over everything average and mediocre. Poof! All sync, goodbye, all that bye. AI's got that all day long.
Yeah.
It can fabricate that. What AI can't fabricate is actual, real human emotion.
Yes.
That. So now is the time to be the most unique, the most practice. Go home, practice. Don't use a MIDI. Don't cheat. Don't use your computer. Play. Learn how to do it. Do the things that the computer can't do.
Yeah. Like what you said earlier, like if everything goes to hell, you still have your guitar.
Yeah, you still have your guitar.
You don't need to plug it in.
And what's amazing is if we lose electricity, you could play in the dark. You could play without internet. Yeah.
So just what your advice for up and comers is to keep going.
Yes.
Essentially.
And to not, it takes just as much energy to be paralyzed or to lament or to be frustrated or angry or bitter or jaded, or it takes a lot of that takes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
It also takes a lot of energy to be curious, positive. I mean, they're like muscles, right?
Yeah. I learned the hard way in life that self-pity is
exhausting.
Really, it's the highest form of arrogance because you are only thinking of you.
And it's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
You go to bed at night and you're exhausted, and then you're arrogant and you're tired and you're mad.
Yeah.
I'm also exhausted trying to live a jubilant life now.
Yeah.
It's all equal, but I would rather be exhausted.
Trying.
Because it's gonna
Yes.
make you tired either way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting. There's a perception, at least musically speaking, like in this town to me, that, well, maybe it used to be easier, but I think it just used to be different. That's your point, right?
It just used to be different.
We didn't know things in the 90s that we know now, like things didn't exist. So yeah, if you landed a deal the same way in 1990 and you land it now, that'd probably be an amazing story and wouldn't happen now. But
also,
you have to just keep it going.
I mean, to quote Heraclitus, my favorite philosopher, he said two of my favorite things, and that is you never step in the same river twice. It's not the same water. You're not the same man, right? And the sun really never sets at all. It's just your turn for darkness.
That's good. We should end there.
And
That's
that was
good.
5,000 freaking years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like, so if you never step in the same river twice, why would you expect any one day to be the same?
Yeah, or any one thing that you're making.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good advice.
Heraclitus.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
It was fun to talk to you.
It was really fun talking to you. You asked good questions.
Where can people find more stuff about you and what you're doing and what you're up to?
Well,
you have writers' rounds coming up or anything?
I'm playing the 30A Festival in January.
Okay.
I'll probably be playing something like at the Listening Room and Backstage Nashville at 3rd and Lindsley in the new year. I always do things like that.
Cool.
I love the Bluebird, of course. And then I'm on Instagram, just my little old name, Tia Sillers. And yeah.
And Flight Attendant.
Yeah, check them out. They're on Spotify. They're on Tidal. They've got great videos.
Maybe we can get them on the podcast.
You would love them.
Hang out.
You would love them.
That'd be fun. Well, thanks again.
Thank you.
We did it.
All right. We did it.
Worktapes is produced by me, Brandon Carswell. Special thanks to Tia Sillers and Flight Attendant. You can find more about Flight Attendant at flightattendantband.com. Production assistance by Jonas of Litton. Thanks to Nick Autry, Soundstage Studios, and Black River Entertainment. Writing assistance by Daniel Shepard. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Worktapes everywhere you listen.